My name is Paul Ochieng. I am a practicing architect based in Nairobi. My firm is called Outsource Designs Limited with an office in Nairobi and a branch office in Kigali, Rwanda. I did my architectural degree at the University of Nairobi, graduated in 1999. I worked briefly in Nairobi, then proceeded for my master's at the University of Nottingham, UK. I finished my master in 2005. Soon after, I went to work in Asia. I got a job. I was posted in Indonesia. After that, I came back to Kenya after working in Indonesia for 3 years. I relocated back to Kenya. I worked with a number of development organizations, including UN, until the year 2010, where I decided to set up my farm. So my farm is now 15 years old. It occupies a very interesting role in our construction project cycle. As you're aware, the first person who puts together the client's ideas in terms of the design is the architect. So our role is to put everything together into a product that the client desires. Once that is done, we also assist in getting the approvals. Locally, regionally, internationally, construction projects have to be approved by the various statutory bodies, governments, and counties. So the architect's role is to help you walk you through that process of approval by submitting the drawings which have been designed and complying with the various bylaws and regulations. We also then work together with other professions which are relevant, the engineers and the quantity surveyors, to package the whole project to a feasible, implementable product. After we help the client get the approvals, the architect will help in supervising what has been agreed with. So we do periodic site visits to just check that indeed what has been designed by the design team and approved by the regulatory bodies, statutory bodies, is what the contractor is doing on site, and also to just ensure quality control that we get the right product. So in essence, that's what the architect does. And if you look at that globally, the architect will be the team leader because you originate it and try to walk the whole team through to delivery. In my career journey I've handled many projects, and I must say I like all of them. Each one and each project is different, and a lot of learning. I will say one of the projects that really interested me, and maybe I can explain that later, is when I moved to Indonesia in 2005, actually 2006. It was after the tsunami, and there was a lot of reconstruction. Everything was destroyed, and we had a need. The client had a need to do an office complex in a setup where the road infrastructure, the supply chains, and even the human resource were completely wiped out. So I had to come up with very innovative solutions using materials which were not locally available in that setup. So it's an office complex comprising, we used over 280 shipping containers to do an office complex. And this was sourced from very far from the site. A lot of lessons learned there. Another project that I've been involved in, which had a different challenge but required innovation, is a school we did in Nairobi. We finished it in 2016, if I'm not wrong. It's an international school with the foreign clients. And the key standing thing was the material sourcing and the design philosophy that they needed to match what they had abroad and what they needed for the local use. The school, Light Academy International, is in Karen. Another project, as I've said, there are many projects we've been involved in. It's a hotel in the Aberdare region tourist cycle, which the impact was mostly on the financial constraint and the site constraints, but we were able to deliver it within what the challenges were. We came into the project at a very trying time for the client, but we were able to make it it's actually achieved a 5-star rating at the end with all the challenges. So that's a White Rhino Hotel in Nyeri. My design philosophy actually depends on the project parameter, the client brief. As you realize, every project has unique needs. But overall, I try to merge simplicity and functionality. That cuts across. Of course, that's adapted to what the client requires. Why do I talk about simplicity and functionalities? Because once the project or the design is very simple, then the other issues of implementation and cost will be very efficiently achieved. So projects are varied and projects have different needs. But my cross-cutting is to try to have a very functional that meets the client's needs, and also simplicity in the choice of materials used. So, and simplicity in the form, in the shape, and I've learned over time that makes even the whole project cycle very easy and straightforward when you have changes later on. I think I'll say memorable challenge and how I overcame it. The project I talked about in Indonesia was extremely challenging. You can, for those who can remember, the Asian tsunami wiped out cities in Asia. And by wiping out, there are no people to build on site, easily available, qualified staff, workers. There were no materials. And even where you get the materials, the roads are not there, and the whole supply chain was interrupted. But then we had to work in that environment to do the reconstruction of infrastructure and buildings. So to get local material that we know normally for building were not there. You want to get even timber or stone or even the other hardware stuff. So how we overcame this is we decided that, and that's the first time I used these technologies using containers, because then the shipping containers, we could partly source them when they came through relief organizations and then modify them to office blocks. And some we had to get from very far. The town where we were was by flight, it's about 3 hours. You can compare that in Kenya, it's between Nairobi and I don't know, Zambia, Lusaka. So we could procure them at the factory offshore and had to ship them. So every detail had to be made to fit. So we designed these things to be fabricated in the factory far away, shipped, and the only thing then we do on site is assemble. And I think we did a good job. And when the operations were finished, we were also able to dismantle this and carry them away and relocate them. So what I'm driving at, the challenges of a project, architects need to be innovative, see what works and what does not work, and what is available. So that's one of the memorable ones, which was really under very, very tough conditions. Evolution of architecture. I studied in the 90s. I graduated in 99, as I said. From design, from training, a lot has changed. For those who studied in that era, we learned with the T-squares and the big tables, and everything was drawn by hand. There was the introduction of computer-aided design was just starting. Actually, it caught us when we were just about to finish. Currently, I know most design, I think there's so many softwares that are used for design. So in design and training, we've moved from hand drawing and sketching to more production through the computer and the computer-aided design. If you go to the construction and the site works, I think we've all of us are aware of 3D technologies that are coming up and AI, which impacts the practice of architecture. I think I remember when I first did my work, and even up to recently, when a client wants us to go to site visit and take the site characteristics, we go with the tape measure and measure everything. But now the possibilities of even those 3D cameras where you can place it and it captures all the information and you load in your computer and read from there. That's in design and practice in construction. But one of the other things locally which has really helped, and I think we need to embrace, the new building code. The new building code 2024, which replaced the old one, has really changed the parameters and given architects and engineers and conservators room to be more innovative. It defines not the material, but what the performance of the building. So that gives you room to be able to think widely, unlike the previous one where it will tell you the building brick should be this thick and the roof should be what material. Now it tells you the roof should be able to meet this parameter or the wall needs to meet this. So it has opened so much for us. And if embraced with the technology, I think architects are in a very exciting era going forward. My experience over the years being a practitioner locally, regionally, internationally, and also serving the board, running my private practice, and interacting with other stakeholders in the built environment locally. One of the advice and what I've learned is architects have a big role and responsibility. We occupy that special place of helping carry forward God's creation. We mold the shape of the earth, and with that big responsibility, that opportunity comes with a huge responsibility to apply it carefully and professionally. Locally, in the local market, I will say with the devolution, the opportunities are now very well spread across the country, although there are some counties where you find more concentration of resources. But if you look across the landscape of Kenya, the opportunities all over. Everything is no longer done within Nairobi. The opportunities for architects to be in all corners of the republic, but also with the African free trade agreements, opportunities are opening more and more across the continent. So we have mutual agreements with other countries that we actually able to go there and practice. And within the East African, you find, I think Kenya has been a pioneer in this training of architects. So we are looked up to by our neighbors in most areas. And we need to just continue grabbing that opportunity. In terms of the built environment in Kenya, there are challenges, yes. But as I said, with the devolution, as I said, with the building code that is coming up, that opens for us room for innovation in terms of material and design, and also the technology, the internet. I think we have a good opportunity to take the practice to even a higher level than where it was 2-3 decades ago when we started. Comparing having worked and having practiced a bit in the region and also internationally in the other continents, I think our architects and quantity surveyors need to embrace technology more and do a lot of benchmarking out there. I think when you go to Asia or where I worked, you find the innovation level to come up with new materials or to even to adapt new materials is huge. We are still lagging behind in that area. When it comes to adapting technology in design and also even construction, I think that's an area that we need to take up more. And the training also, I think our training for architects and conservators is evolving, which is a good thing. But more exposure to the global practices will take it much further. We have, as I say, Kenya and the region is being looked at as a beacon in this sphere. So we can grab that. I think we shouldn't be left. And one of the opportunities now which I have seen is the evolution of architecture and the practice has opened up even other opportunities, other professions that drop off or branch off architecture. We have project management, we have interior design, we have construction managers, and all these are opportunities for architects and conservators. And one of the other, which is with the growth in architecture and construction, is conflict and dispute resolution. So arbitration is another area that architects and conservators and engineers, for that matter, need to take it much further, because the more we build, the more disputes might arise, and we are in that space to be able to give guidance, because we know we are the experts in that area. We can give. We've been trained for several years, and we can give that leadership and interpretation and expert advice much more. So that's, I think, from my experience, those are areas that we need to explore. I think all of us learn from, when you walked the journey, you realize maybe I should have known this one or two things. But the biggest lesson I've learned that maybe I jumped into architecture not fully knowing that maybe it could have helped or not, is the amount of responsibility an architect carries. I think having worked in different projects, different areas, it cuts across that architects are expected to be leaders, to provide solutions to nearly everything in the construction sector, or at least give guidance. There are projects where you are the architects, you'll answer partly, you need to know a bit of what engineering issues might come up, answer question here or there about costs, answer question one or two about the law, the contract. So the amount of knowledge that we pile up beyond our training in design and just supervision is a lot. I know that there are some projects where you even become a counselor and a mediator between clients. So it's a very broad, demanding career that it shapes us in a different way. It shapes us to be able to listen more and give solutions. So this is something that you learn with the experience that, but maybe is better hinted at school level or before the start of career. But the other thing which I think is also very important, architecture is actually also a business, and we need to treat it as a business. So how we run our farms is something that needed to be, I wish I knew, because you find architects grapple with it as we go, along the way, of course, but it's something that maybe if I knew before, I would have done slightly better or differently, let me call it. Yeah, the skyline of Nairobi, interesting question. As you say, architects, beauty or otherwise is subjective. I think where we are going is too much. Nairobi is very cosmopolitan and a huge capital that you find new designs coming up, replacing some areas which have been rezoned. Of course, there are challenges. I must say, honestly, there are challenges with our urban skyline, where marrying what was there before is lagging behind. The development is a bit ahead of the planning, so you find planning trying to catch up. But in terms of design, I think there are interesting areas in shapes and structures coming up. My only concern as an architect is where you find what should have been done before ahead is lagging. So you find you're grappling with zoning, you're grappling with skyline issues, and at that time also you need to develop your property. So you can imagine a skyline where you have very disparate different languages, which nothing is bringing them together in terms of heights, in terms of shape, in terms of volume. So for me, that's a concern. But in terms of the pace of development, that's what is expected of a capital city. Is there room for improvement? Of course. So there are some cities which have developed in the last 40 years that have managed to tackle some of the things we are doing in a much better way. And I can just briefly give an example. I was in a town in China called Shenzhen. It's less, I think it must be younger than Nairobi, or the same age with Nairobi. I'm not saying it's the best plan, but I think there are quite a number of lessons that as architects and planners and conservators and engineers, professionals, we can add to the society by being mindful of what comes before the other and how we work together to have a good capital city. And of course, the other cities within the country, the opportunities where they're still very young, that some of the issues bedeviling Nairobi don't necessarily have to be repeated in the other cities. So I think that's the role we can give back to our country. My other interest outside architecture, I do mentor. I love mentoring boys and of course girls. So I mentor high school and university boys and girls. The other thing I do in that line is helping them explore different career paths, in particular in sports. I'm a trained, licensed FIFA player agent. So I know that's it's not as big in Kenya as in Europe, but I do that. So when you have players who want to develop, or kids, boys and girls who want to take their footballing a bit one step and they don't know, we get a talk and maybe help where it's possible, and also just give them the reality. Apart from that, do the usual stuff. I used to play football a bit. I don't now with age, maybe I don't do it. But reading, mentoring, and just giving back to the society in different ways.